Om Shanti. How are you? It's a really good news that the war between Ukraine and Russia that's been happening for the past 3 years seems to come to an end pretty soon with the help of the American President Donald Trump. So initially Zelensky was hesitating to bring this war to an end. Because he has lost many things, many citizens of Ukraine, and he doesn't want to stop it just like that. He wants guarantee. He doesn't want the any threat to the Ukraine democracy. But interestingly, I read a comment regarding this that someone was saying that Ukrainian democracy was already destroyed completely by Zelensky by forcing the citizens to take part in the war. I don't know if this has already happened anywhere in the world. Even militants, they don't force people to fight for them. Of course, they use civilians as the shield, but they don't force them to fight. But here it's very pathetic that he made Ukrainians to fight, the public people, civilians to fight. And all families were separated. No man is allowed to leave the country, which is really bad. I think, maybe what Russia did to Ukraine was not just. But what the Ukrainian president did to the very people who elected him was worse than what Russia did to Ukraine. And several nations were in support of Ukraine. That's the reason they were able to keep this war going for these 3 years. And finally, one among the nations who supported Ukraine came to senses. That's America, which is good. Because Trump clearly says this war has no end in sight. Do you want this to happen for another 5 years? Because it has already swallowed billions and billions of dollars from various nations. And as a result, the price of essential commodities is soaring. First, Donald Trump had discussion with Zelensky, which made the world watch it in awe because of the kind of interaction two leaders were having. And people actually trolled Trump for insisting Zelensky to be thankful to him. But the point is, he keeps on repeating that thousands of people are getting killed on daily basis. The courts are not on your side anymore. Without us, you can't even keep this war going for 2 weeks. Maybe Zelensky did not expect this to happen. And in addition to Trump, even once he triggered Zelensky, and the reporter, to make the things worse, asked Zelensky about the suit he was wearing, saying that it was disrespectful for Zelensky to come like this to the highest Oval Office of the world. But I don't know why they considered T-shirt to be disrespectful. Plus, he is coming from the war field. But anyway, because they say he should be happy that he is bringing this war to end. Why is he coming like this? And there are many people on the internet saying that he was trying to create sympathy. But anyway, the problem with Zelensky is the problem with the majority of the world population. Because we are brainwashed right from our childhood through our school education that we should fight for our country. Instead of showing the necessity of peace for the country, they just teach us that it is patriotic to fight for the country. And that is the reason, and there is nobody to guide him that what he is doing is wrong. What we are taught at school is wrong. Because the school education system in any part of the world, they started after the freedom war. So obviously the curriculum would be corrupted with violence in the name of patriotism. And that's the reason people think when there is something that happens to their country, to their loved ones, to their religion, they should stand up and fight against it. But that's not what any religion teaches. So instead of drafting a separate law for each country, if they had just adopted what is written in Bible, Quran, Srimad, Mahabharat, Ramayana, it would have made more sense. Of course, it was not 100% perfect, but still it would be better than laws created by people after freedom. So one pathetic thing that happened during the initial stage of war between Ukraine and Russia was many people in America who were supporting Ukraine said that it is like the war between David against the huge Goliath. So God handed Goliath to the hands of the tiny David. Likewise, God would definitely give Russia to the hands of Ukraine. But what's so pathetic about it is this is how they interpret Bible. The main character of Bible, who is Jesus Christ, his teaching goes that if somebody harms you by slapping you in one cheek, instead of harming him back, show him the other cheek so that he cools down. That's the essence of teaching of Jesus Christ. So the statements made by people regarding David clearly proves that Christians do not know the core teaching of Bible. Even in that story, it has a very deep spiritual meaning. They just don't understand that. It happens in many religions. In Quran, they say about war, they think the war actually happened, but it did not. You take any war that's mentioned in Bible, it did not happen for real. Same is the case with Mahabharata and Ramayana. They did not happen like that. Because spirituality doesn't teach you to be cruel to fellow humans. It teaches you how to advance spiritually. So we just see everything at a physical level instead of at a spiritual level. The main reason for that is nobody has any idea about what spirit or soul is. It is only when God Himself comes to the earth by 1936, He enters an old man's body in India. He names that old man as Brahma. It is through Brahma's mouth God Himself directly starts giving this knowledge. The essence of that knowledge is about this 5000 year time cycle. The first half of this cycle was heaven. The same world we live in was heaven in the beginning for the first 2500 years. Then it gradually becomes hell, gradually reaches the state that we are living now. But the good news is it's not going to be this was anymore. Yes, the world is about to be renewed back to heaven again. This is a cycle. So whatever happens in this 5000 year time cycle called Kalpa keeps repeating accurately Kalpa after Kalpa. So to understand it easily, it is now 2025 that I'm creating this video. This is not the first time I'm creating this particular video. I have done it billions and billions of times before this Kalpa, and I'll be doing the same billions and billions of times over and over again in the upcoming Kalpas. It's that accurate. So God says, you were the residents of heaven. Now you have become the residents of hell. This world becomes hell. While in heaven you were absolutely soul conscious, you considered each other as soul while interacting with each other. Soul shines like a tiny star in between the eyebrows. It is the soul that sees through the eyes, speaks through the mouth, and more importantly, the soul is imperishable while the body is perishable. No matter what you do through any body, you will definitely reap the consequences of it in the upcoming births. It is because we have become fully body conscious that we are concerned only about deriving pleasure through the physical senses. We really don't bother about whether it causes hurt to others. We just are concerned about the immediate benefits. But while in heaven we were fully soul conscious, and we would be constantly happy, not because it was heaven, but because we were soul conscious. Because since our concentration is in between the eyebrows where souls reside, we derive happiness constantly from the soul itself, because the soul is an embodiment of blissfulness, peacefulness. So we don't have to depend on anything external to us to be happy. because we ourselves were the embodiment of happiness for the first 2500 years. And since we were constantly happy, we felt constantly content, that we did not develop any waste or negative thoughts. It is only when waste thoughts start emerging after 2500 years, when we become body conscious, that we have thoughts about lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. Till then, we have no idea what these five vices are. Even the childbirth happens when husband and wife have the thought of having a baby. The wife gets pregnant, and there's no question of having any physical intimacy between them. They were not disturbed by each other's beauty. They were very beautiful. The reason for that is their being soul conscious. And unfortunately, it did not last forever. After 2500 years, we slowly become body conscious. We become addicted to sensual pleasures because we no longer get pleasure from within. So we seek pleasure out. But what happens is these sensual pleasures actually damage the senses, and it corrupts the mind and intellect, that you can no longer distinguish between the right and wrong. So under the influence of these five vices, we start committing more and more sins, because of which we are punished in the form of diseases, poverty, natural calamities, war between nations, conflict between family members. So we have reached where we are now. God comes to save us from this world of sorrow and take us back to the kingdom of heaven, where there is nothing but happiness. Whatever you see, whatever you listen, everything is filled with happiness there. So all we need to do now is to settle all the karmic accounts we have been accumulating over the past 2500 years. How do you do that? God says, just shed your body consciousness and stay soul conscious. And that's not that easy, because we don't have power anymore to stay soul conscious. And that is the reason God comes to give his introduction. So God shines like a tiny star in the golden red colored light world called the soul world. It is where we souls also resided along with God there as a point of light. God is also a soul just like us. He is not bigger or smaller than souls. Just to differentiate between soul and supreme soul, we have drawn it a bit larger. Otherwise, both look the same. The only difference is we enter the birth and death cycle and take several rebirth after rebirth till we reach the end of the cycle. But God doesn't enter heaven and experience happiness, and he doesn't enter hell to experience sorrow either. Nonetheless, this particular knowledge about this 5000 year time cycle and the introduction about soul and supreme soul is only with God. That's why in Quran it is mentioned only Allah has his knowledge, which actually indicates that unless God comes, so far whatever we have been learning through religious scriptures, it's not God's knowledge. Because if it is God's knowledge, the foremost thing the scripture should reveal is about the appearance of God, the residence of God, the occupation of God, and our relationship with God. And how do we benefit from God? None of the religions say that. And that's not their fault because that's not created by God. God is just one. He comes only once. And the teachings he gives is just one, which is available in all Brahma Kumaris Rajog meditation centers, absolutely free of cost. God says, whatever happened so far, let it be the past. It's not anybody's fault because there's nobody to guide you. Now I have myself come to fill you with these divine teachings that make you divine. No matter what happened, just put it behind you. Now he has brought heaven in his palm for us children. All we need to do is to make us eligible to enjoy the richness of heaven by taking birth in heaven. How do you do that? By becoming soul conscious as we were originally while we were in heaven. So to become fully soul conscious, we need to consider ourselves to be souls and to connect our mind as much as possible to the Supreme Soul, who shines like a tiny star in the golden red colored light world. The more you keep your mind busy in remembering God, the more the sins of the soul gets destroyed. So, unfortunately, all religions teach violence. There's mention of war in all religions. So obviously people will easily be misled by religious preachers. So this is not the time to get carried away by man-made religions, but to hold it directly to God's hand, hold on to his teaching, keep it near to our heart, remember him as much as possible, and the number one teaching is to consider ourselves to be the soul that is distinct from this body. As a matter of fact, God says to get rid of body consciousness altogether. Consider yourself free from this body. Consider yourself to be the bodiless soul. Consider each other to be bodiless souls as well. And that's the reason you would be able to conquer these 5 vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. So it is because of body consciousness that we engage in lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego without even knowing that it is sin. So Zelensky, under the influence of other nations, thought that what he was doing is right, but in reality, even this body doesn't belong to us forever. What if Zelensky takes another birth in Russia or in some other nation that he doesn't like? Because more likely it would happen. Because we just get deceived by the external appearance, by the body we see. But God says, get rid of the body and the religions of the body. The true religion of soul is peace. And I am the Father of all souls. You just surrender everything to me. I have brought heaven for you. Don't worry about what happened to you was just or unjust. Just put your full stop. This is the time to accumulate the richness of heaven by being in remembrance of God. If you spend your whole life chasing away the enemies from your country, from your property, then you will be the loser. It looks right on the surface, but you are missing out on the valuable time given by God, because the world is going to end anytime soon. Somebody needs to put this world on all religious leaders, all politicians. God has come. It's been more than 89 years. So hardly 10 or 15 years remains. We have very less time, but we have a huge task of destroying all the sins we have been accumulating for the past 2500 years while we were in this hell. How do you destroy that? By getting out of body consciousness, by considering yourself to be soul and remembering God as a point of light as much as possible, by reading the teachings of God that is available in all Brahmakumari's Rajog Meditation Center. So the essence of that teaching is to consider yourself to be soul and to remember God as a point of light. So if somebody takes away your property or nation, just let it go. If somebody keeps his eye on what you believe is yours, then you should remember that it is not yours anymore. Otherwise, he wouldn't have kept his eyes on that particular thing or person or whatever. So you should be able to give that up, or else we'll be forced to give that up. So that's what I believe has happened to Ukraine in the end. What if he did not, what if he just surrendered to Russia? What worse could happen? Nothing would have happened. Russia would have become a more powerful country. Ukraine would have become part of Russia. But nobody thinks it that way. Say, there was a time when British conquered the whole of the world, almost the majority of the world. But people fought for their country's freedom. What happened as a result? But anyway, one good thing that happened was English has become the global language. So we are able to communicate with anyone across the globe, which is a good thing. And if nobody had fought against British, what would have happened? The whole world would have become British. So there would be no need for passport or visas. Wouldn't it be nice? But anyway, that's not going to happen, because what has happened was predetermined. But the good news is that's going to be so pretty soon. The whole world would be like a family pretty soon. So this India would become heaven. It is the residence of heaven called deities that Hindus worship till date. But what we do not know is that we were originally deities. After taking several rebirths, we have lost our beauty, wealth, peace, prosperity, everything. God has come to give us all back. All we need to do is to regain the divine qualities that we originally possessed. Just don't see what you see, don't listen what you listen in this old world, because everything is corrupted. That makes your mind and intellect more and more corrupt. So stop listening to anything other than what God says. Stop saying anything but one God. It is only through that we accumulate the imperishable treasures in the soul that we carry, that will make us to be born in the royal family. So if we have sinned in the past, obviously people will be coming on our way, do some really unjust things, but if you just accept it and if you don't oppose it, you will find a great reward for that. But unfortunately, people here, they try very hard to become president or prime minister by brainwashing the civilians into believing they are the better person and the other one is the worst person. So after doing such things, if he is forced to get down from his post, he is not ready. Instead, he is trying his best to brainwash their people into thinking that we have to fight for our country. But in reality, he is unable to let go of his ego that he is sacrificing his own people for his own interest. You can't expect anything more from this old world. This is not the new world. This is not the kingdom of heaven. So here, those who are ready to sacrifice everything, they will become the king and queen of the kingdom of heaven. So what do you want? Even rich people here in this old world cannot stay happy. Can you show anybody who is constantly happy, who has no disease, who has no sorrow? It's impossible. But in heaven, you don't find a single person who is sad. So everybody there will be happy. Even lion and cow will take water from the same pond. Needless to say about humans, it should say how loving humans would be to each other and other animals. So you have to imbibe that divine qualities right now for you to be able to take birth in heaven. All you need to do now is to be in remembrance of God as much as possible. Om Shanti. So rush to the nearest Brahma Kumaris Rajyoga meditation centers to get this knowledge called Murli, which is available in all languages. You can Google it yourself in the internet. You can find it online also. So the essence of that teaching is to consider yourself to be soul and to remember God as a supreme soul, as a point of light in the golden red colored light world. Or you have to put it simply, you have to remember God as a star in the golden red colored sky. And also you have to imbibe the divine qualities that we originally possessed, that you can get by reading Murli regular basis. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching.